Hey everybody, welcome back to the Road to E3. This is the podcast Beyond segment, so I surmise.
We got our pictures up there.
Joining me, Marty Sleeva,
hey everybody.
Andrew Goldfarb,
hey,
and Brian Altano.
What's up?
Hey, how's it going? What's up with there's a new box, I'm told.
Yeah, that's what they're calling it officially, off the record. It's called PlayStation's new box. Yeah,
oh, that's weird.
It's a very expensive one, I'm told.
Yeah, we're talking about all the hardwares that are going to be probably shown at the Sony conference, and there's two different angles we can take on this. Mm-hmm. Which angle do you want to go first?
90 degrees.
It's a choose your own adventure. I like this.
Yeah, it's amazing. So let's start with the PSVR.
Okay.
I mean, that's a given, right? We're going to see that at some point in the conference.
Yes.
Do you think the hardware is going to look like what it's looked like every time we've seen it, or do you think for retail we will see a new model, kind of like how they did with the
I have a theory. There's going to be two colors.
Two colors?
Yeah.
Really?
I think that's a very safe bet. I think it's going to be black and white.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or like black and like a grayish sort of.
I mean, so my big question with VR is how they're going to market it to people, because right now the thing is there aren't games. There are these demos, there are these things that are great for trade shows. There's nothing that's going to get me to spend $600. Do you think they'll do bundles? Like, do you think they'll do a Rigs bundle and a Dreams bundle and a No Man's Sky bundle, or do you think they're just going to say, buy our headset with the hardware bundles we've announced?
I actually don't think they're going to do any game bundles right at the jump, besides the stuff we've seen already. I mean, they might throw in. Think about the way the PSP launched, where it basically just had a UMD of just like movie trailers and demos, experiences.
It comes with what is like PlayStation Worlds?
Which is like the 5 different sort of.
Yeah,
but I feel like there's enough SKUs on the market already. There's already 2, which is already like people are kind of like, what is this thing? And if you flood it with too many SKUs, also like I think it's interesting to think that there would be different colors, because unlike a controller or a console, you don't see it.
Yeah, but you're still going to have it in your house somewhere.
Well, and it's like people spend money on customization for first-person characters in games.
That's true.
Someone else sees
it. I think it's very likely we're gonna be told about some kind of integration between an existing regular non-VR game and PSVR, whether it's Uncharted 4 being like, oh hey, camera mode now supports VR, so you can look around,
right?
Or awesome,
super smart.
I don't know, GTA 5 support. I don't know why that would be a thing, or we did hear about Star Wars Battlefront having some kind of involvement. So.
Super excited for that.
Yeah, whatever that experience is.
I think Fighter Squadron is a pretty safe bet. You've got your money on speeder bikes.
I think something a little more straightforward. Fighter Squadron is going to be kind of vomit-inducing very early on.
Like speeder bike wouldn't?
Well, that's at least straightforward. You can like look left and right. You can't go backwards. Like Fighter Squadron is like you're doing
like barrel
cartwheels,
rolls.
barrel rolls.
Space cartwheels.
Yeah, space cartwheels.
Modding VR support in the Star Wars Battlefront is a good answer to like E-Valkyrie or Elite Dangerous, whatever.
Yeah,
sure.
I think we need to it's probably not going to be a killer app yet, but they need to show us something in an existing franchise or something that like a major first-party studio is working on.
Yeah.
Whether it's Santa Monica, whether it is something Naughty Dog's been working on, or Japan Studios, like some integration maybe in the Last Guardian universe or the Uncharted universe or God of War.
I think
were we told that Final Fantasy Online has support for that too?
Final Fantasy 14.
It was 14? 14 was on. They did like a big splash of logos when they officially renamed it, and that's one of them.
I mean, 15 would be a pretty cool way to sell it.
Yeah. So I think they need to hit hard with VR, because they had their sort of like there were rumors and teasers. They had their actual, here's when it's coming out, here's when you can pre-order it. And I think the early adopters all jumped on. A lot of people bought. The pre-orders pretty much sold out early on. And then the momentum died. The conversation went quiet for a little bit. And I think they have to come back and hit hard at E3 to get people outside of just the people in this room who are already locked in on it.
Yeah. But it's such a tough thing it's really tough to market VR games in a press conference. Like you're just watching a screen and you're watching people flail around, and it's like, well, don't worry, when you put this thing on, it's going to look a lot cooler than it does on this flat screen.
I think it's also a hurdle that was kind of conquered with motion controls. I think it's less with that, you always had to show what the person was doing to be like, oh, it's a Kinect, they're dancing. Let's cut back to Travis. He's doing such a good job dancing or whatever.
Yeah, Travis was doing
Travis.
Yeah, good old Travis. But then with VR, it's kind of like you show the guy wearing the hat, and then you show the off-screen footage. You get a sense of what's going on.
And as more people have gotten to use Oculus and Vive or Gear VR, like people are starting to associate, like, oh, I understand what this is like, so I can project a little bit further into the studio.
Yeah, and that's the game changer. This is the first conference with VR out there. Like Oculus is out now, so it's the first time people have actually, at TGS, at PSX, even around GDC time, like you couldn't get those units yet.
Yeah, and luckily all these companies that are trying to sell VR are also fighting to solve that same problem of how do we get people to try it. And when you have 5 or 6 different companies at the same time being like, try our thing, when you've tried one, not to say you've tried them all, but you kind of understand it to a degree, depending on how well some perform better than others and stuff like that.
Now, of course, the next big thing is the rumored PlayStation Neo. The 4K support version, kind of upgraded with integrated VR support.
Yeah.
Which almost feels like it's something that VR forced the hand into existence of.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too because it also seems like with all these leaks, like Microsoft and Sony are both like maybe pulling the trigger on these a little too early or announcing them early just because one wants to get out the door before the other. But I mean, all those rumors are pointing towards a PlayStation 4, codename Neo, or 4K or 4.5, which is going to be able to display games in 4K and also seemingly include the added processing power of that external box that comes with PSVR inside of the PS4.
So we got a release date at GDC for the PSVR.
Or the window. We got
not release date. Pricing. And they were like, yeah, it's it's only $400, but you got to get other stuff too to work with it.
That might be the $500 one.
I think it's going to be really interesting if there is another SKU that goes with the PlayStation Neo. Basically if the thing comes with, I mean, it's confusing. It's very much a chicken and egg thing because if you're trying to sell PlayStation VR to someone who's already got a PlayStation 4, you're like, oh, you got to get this box and plug it in here. But if you're interested in the PlayStation Neo, then maybe you don't need that box, and maybe then there's, I don't know, is there a $300 model of PlayStation VR that doesn't need that box?
Yeah, which is super interesting. And also we've from all these leaks and reports and rumors, there's been, the cutoff point where any game after, is it August or September or?
Yeah, sometime around basically before it's out, the month before launch, you would have to have it support the ability to support PS Neo.
And it seems like it wouldn't be like Neo versions of games aren't going to be like it's Uncharted 4, but now 10 new levels that are Neo exclusive. It would just be sort of almost technical features.
More probably, realistically not actually 4K. Like this thing is capable of outputting in 4K, but like the actual size of a game to have that resolution and to have like that much is probably not going to happen.
No, the appropriate analog here would be back beginning of last gen when a lot of games were made with CRT in mind and it supporting HDMI, supporting an actual 1080p game versus just weird grainy little thing.
Totally. Yeah, and I'm really interested too with both these new consoles somewhat on the horizon, whether or not when they now demo a game, are they going to be showing us the Neo version so that anyone who doesn't buy that Neo version and is still just having a launch PS4, their game's going to look slightly.
Well, because otherwise it's sort of disingenuous if you're seeing something that you're not actually, it's not indicative of what you're actually buying.
Yeah,
I never would have thought.
But is it anyway? I mean,
no, not really. I mean, nothing's real.
Like that Battlefield 1 trailer, like, is it really going to look like that? Probably not.
I think we're going to see a lot of the kind of, in the same way you see, pre-alpha footage, not representative of final product or whatever. It's going to say PlayStation Neo version or whatever, PlayStation 4K version.
Well, but it'll be so small that you can only read it on a PlayStation 4.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's such a weird kind of moot point because you're not going to, unless you have 4K setup, you're not going to be able to actually see that.
Which none of us have.
And it's 40 million people now have PlayStation 4s, like the normal core PlayStation 4. Like that is a huge install base for this far into the life cycle of the console. So it's like fewer people are gonna own a Neo probably even years from now than own that core unit.
So here's a real crazy thing. What if the PlayStation Neo is a VR bundle? What if that's all it is? What if they're like, hey, if you're going to pay more for something, why don't you really pay more for something?
Yeah.
And they're already selling PlayStation 4s on their own, and they're already selling, the VR on its own. So
I think no matter what, it's going to be it's going to be more powered hardware than the one that PlayStation owners have right now. Like no matter what, there's going to be. It's not going to be pretty. No matter what they do, because you will not satiate all of that audience. There's going to be people being like, I bought one already, I feel burned. And there's going to be people being like, when do I jump in now? Because every 2 years they might add new hardware. Either way, we're weirdly getting this Tyson Holyfield rematch of that E3 a couple years ago, where it was Monday night, and Microsoft announced all their pricing for the Xbox One, and then half an hour went by, and Sony announced all their pricing for the PS4, and there was a major difference in price and structure and just sort of the ethics in the way they were presenting games and selling games and buying and trading used games and stuff like that. And I didn't think we'd be able to do that for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, but here we are.
And yet here we are again.
It's interesting. To me, it's less about whether the Microsoft Scorpio or whether the PS 4.5, it doesn't, the specs of the two of them don't really matter. It's going to be about how each of them is individually marketed and how they handle delivering that message to the consumer and how they handle not burning
either way,
20, 40 million.
And Microsoft is already winning the codename war right now.
Scorpio is much cooler than Neo.
I think it's also how you support the people who already have a PS4 to not make them feel forgotten, because there's the model of it's the Apple thing where it's sorry, if you don't have this model, you can't do this. or it's kind of that weird 3DS model Nintendo did, where it's like you can buy the new 3DS XL, or you can buy a bunch of pieces of it to Frankenstein your old 3DS XL. So you can get like the boat to have the analog stick, and you get the NFC adapter. Like, we don't know yet if that processing box that comes with the PSVR will allow older PS4s, if you don't have a VR headset plugged in, to use more processing power.
Turn it
and the
into
3DS thing is very interesting too, because it didn't actually pan out to be a ton of retail games that were exclusive. But right now, the new 3DS is the only one that can play Super Nintendo ports, oddly. So if I want to play Link to the Past, I need the brand new Nintendo 3DS, and not the one that they made a couple years ago. And I'm wondering how fast that happens here. And the iPhone thing's a very good comparison, because if you look at people like on an iPhone 4 or an iPhone 5, like, everything they're buying is starting to chug. And if they buy games that are day and date on 6 and 6S and 6 Plus and stuff like that, it's just noticeably worse. Everything has a slight lag to it. And yeah, you can deal with it, but is that really what you want? If you're a gamer, you want the best stuff in the world, and you're going to be sitting there on the sidelines being like, I got to trade this thing in. This is going to hurt.
I think they're future-proofing themselves with just strictly having the option to support 4K TVs, which obviously... I mean, the next TVs we buy are probably going to be 4K TVs. I don't have one yet. You know, I'm not there yet, but I will get there at some point. I think it's going to be a lot like when PlayStation Move came out, and there were games that are like, supports PlayStation Move, but it's like, it's Heavy Rain. It's not, a motion sports game. It's not like volleyball in the sand or whatever.
Built around it.
I think it's kind of a weird little extra bonus thing that makes you want to like, my friend has that. I'll take it over to his house and see what it's like.
Which is interesting that you said that, because like hardware introduced mid-console life cycle has historically not been very successful. It's just never really stuck.
Wonderbook, the original Kinect. The Move.
The Move.
I don't know what you're talking about. Wonderbook is incredible. I don't go anywhere without my Wonderbook. I love
Game changer, they called it.
I'm excited because there's so many question marks around that Monday night conference, and I'm excited. I think the one thing we all agree, there's not going to be a Vita 2.
What if they announce
We're having
PSVR?
such a good conversation. You brought it down. Come on, man.
Their PlayStation Vita R is going to be VR support for the Vita.
Nope. Made that
not
up.
at all. That's not a thing. I'm sorry. I don't mean to lie to you. On that note, we're going to be there. We're going to be covering it. Thank you guys for joining me in this very cold room, which we never record anything in. It's kind of weird. We do Podcast Beyond every week, so stay tuned to that, and stick it right here on IGN for E3, because it's going to be awesome. You guys stoked?
I'm excited.
I'm excited about that.
Stick it right here to IGN?
What did I say?
Something like that.
All right, whatever. This is Beyond up there. That wasn't my idea.
Beyond.
Beyond.